Welcome back to Macabre Mondays, where mystery meets the macabre with your favorite Deadly Mary duo. I'm Olive.
And I'm Tom.
Your guides through the strange, the sinister, and the spooky. Where I tell the stories and he gets dragged along for the ride.
I sure do.
If you're listening, this is part 2 of the Montauk Project. The dive into what it is, okay? If you don't know what we're even talking about, go back to the episode before this. It's part 1. You're going to want to listen to that.
You sure are. There's a lot of detail there.
Yeah, I'm layering the base of a lot of context to tell the story of the Montauk Project. And it is, oh my God, it is so much. Honestly, I feel like Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when he's got like the scheme on the wall. That's literally me. Okay, when it came to this, I am learning so much, and I hope you guys are learning too. I don't even know.
I mean, I just want to say right now.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you can see, if you're watching video, you see our outfits. They're different. Because unlike most part 2s, I get to hear the whole thing in one sitting.
Yeah.
I had to wait for this one. I actually had to wait.
Whoa,
I waited
so bad.
it took so long. It's warm outside now.
Because of the snowstorm.
Yes.
That was funny. That was clever. Yes, he did have to wait. Usually he does not have to. And I have not heard the end of it since we last recorded part 1. So here we are recording part 2. Let's just go off the rip, okay?
All right.
Okay, let's do a recap, right? Because there was a lot of stuff that I said last episode, and I want to make sure that we're all on board. Just a couple recaps, right? Camp Hero is a real place. You know, it was built in 1942 as a coastal defense base. Later ends up becoming Montauk Air Force Station during the Cold War. Operated that massive-ass radar tower that looks like it could see into mines until it was decommissioned in the early 1980s. Now, we also learned something very important. Do you remember what it was?
There was a lot of stuff that I feel like I learned.
You're like, there was a lot of important things. The U.S. government was running a secret project, psychological experiment. MK Ultra was real.
Yes.
Now remember, that's the reason why LSD even came to America.
Hippies.
We bought it all out. It kind of actually, the government thought that it was going to be able to mind control people, but in reality, it did pretty much the opposite. Hence the hippie area.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Peace, love, and happiness.
1960s. 1969, if you want to talk Woodstock, okay? Oh my God, you know what? Now that makes me think, like, if MK Ultra never happened.
Would Woodstock have never happened?
No, that leads to something. I won't get into it right now, but that leads to something, okay? So remember, that was real. They're trying to even do like remote viewing, and they would do hypnosis and all that. And the records were destroyed in 1973, but enough survived to give us all the information that we know about MK Ultra. Okay, now there could be a lot more that we don't know. We'll just never know, or so they say. Then in part 1, I also referenced Preston Nichols. He wrote a book in 1992, and he's the one who solely is pretty much bringing up and talking about what the Montauk Project was.
The whistleblower.
Essentially, yes, the whistleblower, the mind control, the conscious experiments. And also, allegedly, he states that he believes that when the base officially closed down, they were still continuing. So there are no official documents confirming anything about the Montauk Project of what the claims are in the lore. But after learning what we know about MK Ultra and all these other factors, okay, it's kind of hard it's not hard to understand why people were willing to consider that this is a possibility, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and now, here's where it gets even more interesting.
Woo!
Because according to the lore, Montauk didn't actually begin at Montauk. It started decades earlier with something called the Philadelphia experiment. Remember, that's where we left off. We left off in 1943 at the Philadelphia experiment. And you were like, I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
Nope, haven't heard of it. The only thing I know about Philadelphia is that we broke a bell.
That's true. That's
Liberty
true.
Bell.
The Liberty Bell.
Yep.
No, for sure. Now, to understand the Philadelphia experiment, we need to go back to 1943 in the middle of World War II. Okay. Now, this is why I kept also referencing World War II. It's just good to know. And especially when I was doing the research and I was trying to figure out like how I wanted to tell the story and portray it, I'm like, we need to know the wars that are going on during this
Give
time.
us the deets.
Yeah, give us that. Okay. In the middle of World War II, which meant that radar detection was a very, very serious threat. Now, before the Montauk Project was ever even mentioned, there was this other story called the Philadelphia experiment. Now, according to the legend, during World War II, the U.S. Navy attempted an experiment trying to make a U.S. warship invisible.
Yeah, but we were meaning like Harry Potter level invisible. Like cloak it.
Right. So, this experiment took place on the ship USS Eldridge at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, where you could probably assume is in Philadelphia. I said Philadelphia like 3 times in a row.
You know, it's funny. I guess I never realized they had a shipyard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though we literally stayed in a hotel once right on the water too.
Yeah, that's so true. You remember when we were staying at the hotel and we were eating breakfast? And
I wasn't going to go there, but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we saw that thing happen.
Yeah, we saw that thing happen.
Yeah, that was
terrible.
Crazy.
At continental breakfast. Isn't that wild?
At a continental breakfast. The continental.
The
breakfast.
The continental. Me and Tom, we saw
Guys,
something
it was a Holiday Inn.
It was nothing crazy. We unfortunately were eating downstairs, and it seemed like somebody had to be retrieved out of the body of water.
Yeah, it seems, I guess it was, I looked it up I was talking with colleagues that I was working with at the time. And that bridge that goes across, I guess it's very common for people to jump from that bridge.
Yeah, it was really dark. I remember we were sitting there like,
did we just see that? And no joke, it was unfortunate too because the way this hotel's breakfast area was set up, it was basically a bar up against the window looking straight out at it.
Straight out.
So there was no, let's just turn sideways or anything to avoid it. It was, unless you're going to go up to your room, this is where you're sitting to, unfortunately, eat your breakfast and have to watch this.
Yeah.
But yeah, did not know they had warships in that area.
Yeah, so they have a Philadelphia. Damn. They had a Philadelphia naval shipyard in Philadelphia. So the story claims that a powerful electromagnetic equipment on the ship was activated, and the ship was going to be degaussed. Now, do you know what degaussed means? Okay, That's what I looked up. And it said degaussing is a process in which a system of electrical cables are installed around the circumference of the ship's hull, running from bow to stern on both sides. A measured electrical current is passed through these cables to cancel out the ship's magnetic field. Degaussing equipment was installed in the hull of the Navy ships and could be turned on whenever the ship was in waters that might contain magnetic mines, usually shallow waters in combat areas. It could be said that degaussing, correctly done, makes a ship quote-unquote invisible to the sensors of magnetic mines, but the ship remains visible to the human eye, radar, and underwater listening devices. So this was mainly just to avoid, these magnetic mines.
That's insanely interesting.
Yes. So that ship was going to be degaussed, okay? The USS Eldridge. And so it was turned on, and the ship became surrounded by a greenish and bluish haze, and then it vanished from sight. The ship briefly appears in Norfolk, Virginia, then reappeared back in Philadelphia. There was no specific timeline or like nothing. Some of the stuff that I saw was that it could have been the ship left from Philadelphia to Virginia. It disappeared from here and ended up in Virginia. And it maybe 10, 15 minutes later, they were back.
What?
Okay, which part? Let's break it down.
You're telling me this ship teleported?
Teleported, yes. They were trying to
I think they did a little more than just make a ship invisible.
Right.
What the hell?
Right.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes. So when they turned on They degaussed the ship, I guess.
And they did more than degaussing.
They activated the
teleportation
and magnetic equipment. Yeah. And because of all that, they ended up vanishing from sight, and then they were literally back. Could have been seconds, could have been up 10, 15 minutes. Yes.
Wow.
So the legend says that when it returned, something went terribly wrong.
Let me guess, none of the people transported with it?
According to the story, when the ship reappeared back in Philadelphia, some of the crew members were disoriented or mentally unstable. Others became violently ill. Some crew members were physically fused into the ship's metal.
What?
Others became unstuck from reality, appearing and disappearing. And two sailors, okay, now here, this is the other part. 2 sailors allegedly never returned. So we don't know where 2 of them are.
Okay. I mean, all right.
Yes. Now, you're probably wondering, where did this legend come from?
I mean, there's a photo, I believe, all this.
Where did the story come from? Well, that's the photo of the USS Eldridge,
yes.
But we don't know if it actually did teleport, because this story actually doesn't come from Navy files. This story...
Or so we believe.
Or so they say. Yeah, or so we believe, exactly. It actually came from letters. In the 1950s, there was a man named Carlos Allende, who also uses the name Carl Allen, so I might use that moving forward. He wrote letters to researchers claiming that he witnessed this experiment happen. He saw the ship disappear and he knew what happened to the crew. There was no evidence, though, to ever find if what he was saying was true. So we're not entirely sure. And the U.S. Navy maintains that no such experiment was ever conducted, and certain details of the story kind of contradict actual facts, too, from what I was reading about the USS Eldridge. So this is all alleged, and it's a legend. So from what I was reading, they said that the USS Eldridge wasn't even in Philadelphia when Carlos said that the experiment took place. So that's why they're like, well, but the ship wasn't even there. So that didn't really happen, because the ship was like being maintained or whatnot in New York, let's say.
Okay.
So that's why they were like, well, we're not really sure if this is true or not.
Grain of salt.
Grain of salt, we don't know, is a part of the legend, right? But what was proven, though, was that the military did research radar camouflage. Ships were degaussed, which is a real process to reduce the magnetic signatures in the sub, and there was experimental technology that existed during World War II. So from an official standpoint, obviously the Philadelphia experiment is fiction, it's fake, it's a legend, it's a lore, right? But again, who's to say that if there were records, they weren't destroyed? You know, so I guess we'll never know. Allegedly, yeah. So again, we'll never know.
It goes into the same thing with the 2 pilots that were over New Jersey. The Air Force, I think it was Air Force or Navy, can't remember. And I remember they literally saw a UFO, which doesn't mean flying saucer, just means an unidentified flying object. And they said that even in their fighter jets, they couldn't catch up to it, and they both were distraught at what just happened and how it moved and went flying past them.
Right.
And that was held up and contained, secret,
right,
and then randomly was released many years later.
Yeah. So exactly,
you know,
or so they say.
So allegedly.
Now, how this connects to the Montauk Project, because you're probably like,
I mean, at this point, I feel like everything's somehow connected.
Right. Okay. Well, time travel is one of the biggest ideas that are biggest ideas tied to both the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project. There is no verified evidence this did happen, but Preston Nichols in his book does claim that Montauk picked up where Philadelphia left off. So he claims that the Philadelphia experiment was an early failure in trying to test time travel, and that the survivors were later brought to Montauk. So the survivors from the ship were allegedly kept and brought to Montauk for research.
That would make sense as to why nobody talked about it if it did happen. they're all there.
Exactly. And also some of them, they've already written them off as mentally unfit.
Yeah.
So like anything they say, you're going to be like, oh no, they're
just
crazy. They're crazy. And then you see how the conspiracy, like it gets out of you. Okay. So all we know is there is no verified actual link from the Philadelphia experiment with the Montauk Project, right? But by this point, the Montauk Project isn't just one claim. It's kind of like an overall image.
Which this makes so much sense as to why you dived so deep into some of this.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a sense of this was tested here, then brought to Montauk to be taken further.
Right.
This is getting insane.
I know.
Already. And I feel like there's still so much for you to tell us.
Did you, how are you feeling thus far? Did you know all this info?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know the Philadelphia experiment. I knew of MK Ultra, but I didn't know
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I'd always heard of it. I don't think I fully knew.
What? Yeah.
And I knew that Montauk was a previous radio. It was scoped as a surveillance for the United States to protect. So I understood a lot of that basis.
Yeah.
And then I only knew more of the conspiracy around what happened at Montauk, but it was very I feel like you're getting ready to go a lot deeper than what I feel like I knew, which seems to be a lot more high level.
High level? Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's just because, and honestly, like the deeper I was going, mind you, there's just so much out there. I really encourage everybody, if you're super interested in this, obviously I can't say every single little detail that I find, or else that would be like the longest podcast ever. But if you are like really into it and want to dive deep on your own, the claims are crazy. There's so many other, it's not even just MK Ultra. Like there's so many other projects under this umbrella that are just all testing certain things. It's just.
This is a total side quest too. If you guys really want to take yourself down a rabbit hole, look into some of these stealth bombers and I believe it's called the I can't remember the exact name. It's called the Nighthawk. I can't remember the exact number for the plane, but it's it kind of looks similar to one of the stealth bombers. I believe it's the B-2. And that's that big triangle one.
Oh, yeah.
It's that big triangle one. And if you want to dive into a rabbit hole, when those planes were being developed between Lockheed Martin, their Skunk Works team, and at Area 51 and all, a lot of that stuff, that's old technology, but they figured out how to build it and everything to where, one, they can fly it a certain way, and then it almost looks like it's not even in the sky. Two, they could fly it a certain way, and now it becomes where it repels radar. There's a lot of stuff with, one, the design that at this time, nobody would have ever looked at this and said, oh, that'll fly.
Yeah.
So there's that whole other conspiracy that we got that type of technology from some type of aircraft that was not from
here.
Earth.
Yeah, from Earth. And then we just kind of, And there's just so much when you really go down, because that's also another conspiracy, I guess, arm of the Montauk Project as well, is that they believe, because they say that there was underground tunnels under Montauk, and so they believe that whenever they did find any type of UFO material, whatever, person, alien, whatever you want to say, they would bring it down there and they would experiment with it and, test it and do all that too. So that's another piece they say is connected to that as well. And so that's why I'm like, I don't know. Is Montauk like motherland
for everything?
For everything. We all thought it was Area 51.
Yeah, Area 51 this whole time's just been there develop actual airplanes.
And no, honestly, I wouldn't even be shocked if it's there just so that you could keep your mind there instead of elsewhere. I could highly see that. But then in 2008, something very real washes up on the beach of Montauk.
Oh, really?
Yes. A never seen before type of being.
A mermaid?
They call it the Montauk Monster. Have you ever heard of the Montauk Monster?
No.
You've never heard of the Montauk Monster?
No.
Go on your slides.
What the hell is that?
That is the Montauk Monster.
Have we confirmed this is a real photo?
Yes, that is the photo. Have
what
we confirmed
the hell
that this is the real
this?
photo? I love you. I'll tell you while you're looking at it.
It looks like a demented pig.
While you're looking, yes, for those of you, because I'll post it online, but for those of you that are listening, it's kind of giving. It looks like it's a different types of.
It looks
animals.
like imagine a pig crossbred with a little pitty, crossbred with a pterodactyl, crossbred with also a raptor, and somehow a rat.
Yes, I'm right, because it does have a long tail. Yeah, it's like a very, yes. Okay, so while you were breaking that down and I'm trying to understand it for yourself, I'm going to tell you what the Montauk Monster was, okay? In July of 2008, what we know of today as the Montauk Monster washed up on the beach, on the shore near Montauk, New York. People on the beach and residents all gathered around to photograph it and share it. And it was seen by thousands of people online.
I can't stop looking. I want to look away so bad because
I
it's
know.
very weird.
There's more.
I'm definitely going to have a nightmare about this. I'm going to wake up thinking this thing is attacking me at the face. And you're going to just look at me and say, "Oh, what's wrong? Are you okay?" And be like, "Yeah, the Montauk Monster just was freaking eating my face, killing me." The hell, man?
No. Out of everything that would stop you from going to bed, it's this.
God, this is as worse as this is almost as bad as what the heck was that movie combined together? Yeah,
together, yeah.
Jesus.
Where you were like, I can't look away, but I have to look, and it's so bad. And you couldn't go to sleep because you were freaked out. It was a really spooky movie. It was a spooky. If you guys haven't watched it yet, watch it, but be careful.
Oh my God.
Watch it, but be careful. Okay, that's all I gotta say.
With this thing.
Okay, so the remains, the photo, it appears to be like this hairless, partially decomposed animal with like an elongated skull and like a beak-like jaw.
It looks like a pterodactyl.
It does, like the jaw. Yeah, it also looks like it has the rat's tail. So when you said mouse, when you're like, it looks like it's crossbred between blah, blah, blah.
I'm not liking this.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, because you yourself are looking at this for the first time, it doesn't really look like any animal that most people were familiar with or have ever seen.
No shit.
Yeah, and so that's what made it such a big deal. So with beachgoers coming by, they shared it all over their blogs, over forums, and mainstreams media picked it up. And all in a matter of days, like immediately people were asking what you're asking. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people suggested that it must be like a genetic experiment that's gone wrong. Maybe it's an escaped lab rat animal, or maybe it's a creature connected to Camp Hero.
It reminds me, and I know you never saw the Simpsons movie. EPA animal. It reminds me of the animal from the Simpsons movie.
Oh, with a bunch of eyes. What's his name?
There was no name.
Oh my God.
It was just a multi-eyed squirrel.
I don't like the eyes.
They dumped stuff, and then he went from a regular... He was running away from the raccoon because the raccoon was trying to get him. He jumped into the water, and then all of a sudden this happened, and he realized he looked terrifying, so then he started running after the raccoon just to save his own life.
Wow. He does look spooky.
Yes.
I don't like how he looks.
This thing looks... Exactly. I don't like how this thing looks.
The monster.
I'll take the squirrel thing from
the Montauk
Simpsons
Monster.
movie.
So as you can imagine, by 2008, Camp Hero is already tied to the Montauk Project lore. There's stories of secret experiments circulating. And yeah, and at this point, the government's not saying much. So they really have no idea what's going on. From what I could find, it said that wildlife experts and biologists did chime in later, saying that it was most likely a raccoon or a dog-like animal.
Okay.
Yeah, and they just explain how water can change how bodies look.
Drastically?
Well, we don't know how long it's been in the ocean.
Oh, here. I just made a nose a beak.
No.
What?
I know. Unfortunately, this unfortunate animal eventually disappeared. I have no idea what ended up happening after.
He's in one of the caves that's concreted in.
And it's funny, in the show Stranger Things, you got the Demogorgons, the Demodogs. This is giving that. This is literally giving that. So that's why to me it's like the connection is crazy. But I'm going to add more to this because you've got the Montauk Monster, okay? Mm-hmm. Nearby, offshore of Montauk, was Plum Island. Have you ever heard of Plum Island?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Plum Island is a small, heavily restricted island just off the coast of Long Island. For decades, Plum Island was home to a federal research facility that studied animal diseases, especially diseases that could affect livestock like cattle, pigs, and sheep. It was pretty much a biosecurity lab, and the goal was just to prevent outbreaks that could devastate the U.S. food supply. But Plum Island operated under very, very strict security because obviously the diseases that they're studying are very dangerous to animals and they could spread quickly if they were mishandled. And because of that, the island was off limits to the public. And it's also like a little island off of Montauk. So it's its own little place. So that level of secrecy naturally is going to raise questions, especially knowing what we know about the Montauk Monster.
Yep.
So Plum Island ends up becoming very important in Montauk lore for three main reasons that I could gather. First, it's nearby, visible, it's in proximity, it's part of the coast, it's easy to point out on the map. But the second is the secrecy. When people know a government facility exists, but don't know exactly what happens there, obviously, as you can imagine, the speculation is going to fill in the gap.
Yeah.
And then you get with the timing, with strange things are happening in the area, like the Montauk Monster. You hear all the lore. And from what I was reading too, there were other animals that looked mutated like the Montauk Monster that were washing up ashore.
That were washing up? Damn.
Yeah. That also were uneasy to, not easily able to identify. Well, yeah, and identify. Because if you go down on your slides, there's another one. There was one that's like the Manhattan Monster. Dude, maybe you don't even want to see the Manhattan Monster because, it's just like doesn't look pleasant. I feel very bad for the little animal. Are you looking it up?
Of course.
Okay.
Do I let my curiosity get the best of me? Yes.
Yeah, the Manhattan Monster was more of like a...
Oh, God, what is that?
Yeah, it looks more like a pig, but if it didn't have hooves... And it had 5 toes with claws.
Oh, my Lord.
I know. But it makes you think if you see Plum Island is not that far from there. Just go to a slide where you're not.
Okay.
Okay.
Glad we already had dinner.
Yeah, that's a good point. You okay?
What the heck?
Oh, right. Okay, so as you can imagine... Spooks.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, very spooks. Imagine seeing that you're walking on the beach and that's what you see. Yeah. So, and then knowing what we know about Montauk and then knowing what we know about Plum Island, the government's kept secrets before.
I'd be selling my house.
Who's to say that something of maybe some animal experiments are also going on on Plum Island, right?
I would say so.
Yes, I would say so too. So it's just very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Now, there is no evidence that Plum Island has, conducted any type of human experiments or created monsters or was connected to the Montauk Project, okay? Official records show...
Allegedly.
It's all alleged. The records show that officially it was just an island that it was focused on animal disease research and biosecurity. So that's all. Take with that what you will, right? But there's just already so much going on at Montauk that it's kind of hard not to say, is this all connected? It's kind of strange. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Just a little.
It just adds more layers to the lore. So by the early 2010s, the Montauk Project story had been around for decades now, right? Books had been written, online forums debated, the lore existed, and then pop culture stepped in. AKA Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
Stranger Things. In 2016, Netflix releases a series called Stranger Things. It was set in the 1980s and centered around a secret government lab, experiments on children, psychic abilities, isolation tanks, and a hidden dimension, the Upside Down.
That's the
Vecna. Yeah.
That's the Vecna thing?
Yes.
Okay.
But this story sounds familiar, right?
Almost sounds like the Montauk Project.
Yes. And as you can imagine, a lot of people saw that. They literally saw that. I mean, you were one of the ones that told me that it was based off of something.
That was what led me, because again, I've never seen really hardly any episodes of Stranger Things outside of a couple.
Yeah, you see like season 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I didn't even seen them is because the mall they filmed at, I love following all the YouTubers that go to abandoned places. Yeah. And that mall's an abandoned mall. That's how they were able to use it.
Right, I remember you told me that.
And so that led me to finding videos, and then all of a sudden I saw something and it said, Stranger Things actually is Montauk Project, ? Oh. And then I said,
what is that?
What's the Montauk Project?
Yeah, what is that?
And okay, let me click. And then next thing I knew, I was 23 minutes in on a guy telling me and showing all this different things, the photos and all this, and I just was mesmerized.
Wow.
But
and look at you now.
Again, did not know nearly everything you have now opened up.
Yeah.
And that makes this feel, again, based off of what I know about the show. Holy shit.
Yeah, it makes you look at it a little bit different. I mean, obviously things are going to be, it's a show, right? Things are going to be dramatized, but it doesn't feel that far-fetched now that you start learning about the Montauk Project, right? And then also knowing that the creators of Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers, they have publicly stated that it originally was going to be called Montauk. And originally was going to be placed there.
It's kind of one of those things that there's too many coincidences to say that it's not coincidental.
Yeah. Right. And it's like the way that they went about it in the show, it was like, I think it was a great depiction of what it really allegedly maybe is. I don't know. But it's just like, I don't put it past it.
Imagine the show was actually not actors that we believe were actors, rather all actual people from the actual true Montauk Project.
Well, it's interesting you say that because there are the Montauk Boys.
What?
Have you heard of the Montauk Boys?
What?
Yes.
Oh my Lord. One thing after another.
Yeah, so according to the Montauk Project lore, there is a group referred to as the Montauk Boys. And these boys were allegedly used in the experiments at Camp Hero.
Okay.
Now, over the years, there have been, Montauk Boys that have came out and spoke.
Oh, so there's like a lot of them.
I don't know how many, to be quite honest, but I did find a video on YouTube or whatnot of an interview with one of them. And, a lot of people are going to believe him. They're not. That's the thing. But when you hear him talk, a lot of it does sound it doesn't sound fake. But I don't know, in the sense of like the way he carries himself and he's telling his story, it's like this is an experience he actually experienced, and it just kind of looks like that. But again, people at the end of the day, they're gonna be like, no, that's fake, or he's a liar, or this. So take with it what you will. But there have been some that came out and talk, and they claim that the way that they were taken, usually they would go for kids that were from unstable or overlooked backgrounds. Okay. Sometimes they could have been runaways. Others could have been too afraid to come home because maybe they just had a broken home. Mm-hmm. And some were allegedly chosen because they just knew no one would ask questions for them.
Interesting.
So a lot of the boys allegedly that were taken were just kind of lost.
Damn.
Yes. And it's easier for them to control lost boys than
have homes and
just lost kids in general. Yes. Now the story claims that the boys were subjected to extreme isolation, psychological stress, sensory deprivation, and experiments meant to push the limits of the human mind. So the idea was not to harm for like harm's sake. It was more to see if
Like what the max extent
like
they could push.
how far consciousness could be altered under controlled conditions.
Okay.
Now, some of the things that I was seeing too is that from some of the research that I was doing, the way that they would break them down, it's kind of like from some of the stuff that I was reading, for example, they would put them in a room and then they would be alone in there with them, like all alone in the dark, and somebody would come in and like yell at them and just tell them what a piece of shit they are, and like,
oh my gosh,
yeah. But that's just like one, right? And they would just go at it where you're just exhausted. They would question you, exhausted. Like when you're on the verge of like death, and then they bring you back, and they're like, it was like very psychological in that realm. Yeah. So there are these Montauk Boys. And interesting because we do know something similar like that when you hear about the Montauk Boys. Oh, taken without your consent, tried all these experiments, because that also reminds me of MK Ultra. So it's
that's interesting that all that's tied.
Yeah.
Looking like it's tied together.
Yeah. But the only thing I will say, so I read about the Montauk Boys. Okay. Now it's just important. I just want to say that I couldn't find any names or records or verifiable victims that really like tied to these claims. So for now, the Montauk Boys lives in this lore. But from like what you find online, like I said, you're going to believe them or you're not. Like it doesn't even matter. Yeah. And I also feel like even if you really were a Montauk Boy,
you're probably
even able to come out and say you are a Montauk Boy? I was going to say,
you might have been controlled enough. Your consciousness might have even been wiped of all that.
That's true, yeah. Okay, so then let's get into the Montauk lore, okay? The actual Montauk Project.
The fact that we're not even into that
yet. We're here now.
Holy
now
shit.
We are here. Now, according to the Montauk lore, which is mainly shaped and popular by Preston Nichols, who wrote the book The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, the Montauk Project refers to, I think we've all gathered it now, an alleged secret program said to have taken place at Camp Hero after its official military mission ended. Not radar like the government said, not air defense, something completely else. Now, the story claims that Camp Hero became a hidden research site focused on the human mind, consciousness, memory, perception, and influence, but also time travel.
Okay.
Radar tower needs a lot of energy, and it would have to be down somewhere underground from what I gathered. So Montauk and Camp Hero would kind of be the best place for it. Because in order to do these time travel experiments and all these things, you're going to need a lot of power. Radar's going to help you with that. And then all the other experiments you can do underground. Allegedly, there were underground tunnels. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even want to say allegedly,
I was
because
say,
they
it's
do.
not allegedly. They said there that's confirmed. There's underground tunnels.
Yes. They're just filled in now or flooded from what I was reading. When you put all that together, Camp Hero becomes probably the best place to do these type of experiments, right? And you're also off on the coast. You're like at the
who's going to be around you?
No one. And if you have restricted access, like you're not going to go any further.
And not
than
a lot of
to.
People live in that area anyways.
Right. Which is crazy because I was reading too about like some people who lived in Montauk, and they said that because I was really curious to see, when this is all going on at this time, I wonder what the residents of Montauk felt. Did they see anything? Were they told anything? I couldn't really find anything much, only little bits and pieces. Like one article I read, the guy was saying that his dad would tell him that we need to shut the lights off at a certain time. So because they were going to turn on
that.
Yeah. Another one, they were just talking about how some people's moods would behave a certain way when they turned on the tower. Mm-hmm. So they weren't sure if it was like the energy from the tower was affecting the residents themselves. Cars would go on and off. So like little things like that, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I would love to find someone who lived there during that time and hear their stories if that's like something that they experienced or that they remember, because I'm just like, to be a fly on the wall would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Would be
For
amazing.
Real.
So Preston Nichols, right? The reason why he created this lore, and this is his story, he claimed that he actually worked at Camp Hero as an engineer and a technician. According to him, he was involved in maintaining the equipment. He witnessed unusual technology and later recovered suppressed memories of his involvement. So he said he didn't remember everything at first.
Okay.
So I was reading his book and he talks about how this all became, right?
Mm-hmm.
How he found out about Montauk. Now, originally he was working for some type of company out in Montauk as a contractor. And mind you, the only reason I'm going to mention this part is because I think it matters. But Preston Nichols, he's got his bachelor's. He's well educated. He's very smart. He, at the beginning, when he first was working at Montauk, not for this type of project or anything, but he was working for a separate contractor. When he was working there, he actually ended up getting it was a grant to study mental telepathy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He gets this grant and he starts working with actual psychics. So he's like living in Montauk area because he's working for a contractor. Okay. So he's being contracted to work at one of the companies. Okay. And he starts working with real psychics and mediums to, see if this is his study. This is what he ends up getting his grant for. And the reason why he even got this grant to begin with was because he was actually trying to disprove it.
Oh, okay.
So he was already with this mentality that he's like,
it's not real.
But I'm going to study it because I'm going to, put a paper out or whatever it is. So then I can,
prove it wrong.
Prove it wrong. Exactly. But then he goes to do this experiment. Well, I mean, he starts doing the grant, the research, and he's working with these psychics and mediums, and he ends up learning that it does in fact exist. You can do mental telepathy. And so he found out something with like radio waves and like microwave waves or whatnot. But one of the most interesting factors, what he found, and from what I read in his book, was that at a certain time at 4:20 every day at 4:20, I know, they're like, smoke weed, get high,
I was
Bob
waiting.
Marley. At 4:20 every day, there would be like an interference with his psychics.
Interesting.
Where they would like shut down. Like they just could not try and do more.
Think or do anything.
They can't. They can't. They're like blocked off. It was always at the same time every day. So he's like, I don't know what the fuck that's about. So he decides to put he's like really smart. So he's got a bunch of shit. All right. Think like Back to the Future, the guy. The older guy.
Yes.
The older guy. The science guy. Yes, him. I forgot his freaking name already. But anyways, so he puts an antenna on his car and he starts driving around Montauk to figure out what is going on. Like, what is that? To see if maybe something will be picked up there. He gets close to Camp Hero. And that's where the signal is coming from.
Wow.
So he ends up learning a specific frequently wave that's coming from the radar. I don't know what it was. It was like 4 something hertz was coming from the radar. And that was what was blocking his psychics, like his studies for that. But then the other thing is why. That's interesting. Yeah. What is up with that?
How is it interfering too?
Yes. So at the time, he was saying even in the book that it was highly guarded and everything, like nobody was allowed at Camp Hero because all this happened. So that happens in 1974. Okay. Now, some shit happens, whatever, years go by, and a friend of his is like, hey, they all left. Like no one's at the Camp Hero anymore. You want to come with me and we go scope it out? And he was kind of already really fascinated with what this frequency was and learning more about it. So he does end up going. Preston ends up going. And when he goes in there, he says that everything is just trashed all over the place. They left behind a bunch of like equipment and I don't even know what you would call it, but like big ass machinery and it looked like they left in a hurry. Okay. In a hurry. Okay. And there are photos and like there's footage of people who have been able to go inside and they've seen what they've seen. So he said that. But then one of the most bizarre moments was that while he was there, because he ends up coming back, but while he was there, he ends up seeing a homeless man that's been living there since they left. And the homeless man tells him, "Oh, I know you." And,
what?
Yeah, and he's like, "What are you talking about? You don't know me." And he's like, "Yeah, you used to work here." And that's what opens up the whole later on. Like he talks more about he talks more in the book. He talks more about like, what he experienced and stuff. But pretty much he ends up starting to remember another time. It's like by him being there, his memories.
It was unlocking stuff.
His memories.
Wow.
It was unlocking his memories. So that's what he claims.
Conspiracy or not, this is all wild.
I know. It is crazy. And again, it's like all alleged, right? It's as you wish, but it's just crazy. So I just had to mention like pretty much that part because that's pretty much how the lore happened. And he apparently was like a very high up like technical engineer there that was working at Montauk Project when it was live supposedly years and years ago. Okay. Because it's like 1984.
Yeah.
So and the Montauk allegedly happened, like 20 years ago. Yeah, a while back, right?
That's crazy.
Now, but there is no employment record confirming that he did work there or not. So, of course, but there's not going to be if he's
I was going to say
out.
Also, how many people are there actually? Because think about it. Bob Lazar.
Yes.
We have so much proof he worked there. And for years, I can't remember. I want to say eventually they ended up saying, yes, he did work here, but we fired him.
Yeah.
But prior, it was
he never worked here. He's crazy.
And then randomly they finally confirmed, like, he did work here, but he was fired. And they basically tried to continue to make him crazy, and
which is wild because, and that's how I feel too now with the UFO stuff. And then a couple of years ago, they were like, "Yeah, we do have UFOs," and I'm like, "Wow!" So for the last, I don't know how many decades, you've just been making people feel crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's
Which,
wild.
I won't lie, part of me has always had a theory because knowing the time Bob Lazar would have been working at Area 51 and the types of not devices, but aircrafts they were building at that time, I also wonder if he just so happened to go past a hangar that he should not have been.
Oh.
And saw an airplane that looked extremely alien-like, and the secrecy and everything else with Area 51 and all that, I'm sure that could have added to it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's very spooky. I mean, I love listening and looking into the stuff that they said. So same thing with this. I mean, it's very eerie. It seems very odd. There's a lot of weird things that have happened. And so, I mean,
and
Stranger Things is real.
And he even claims in the book, Stranger Things are real, but he even claims in the book that Montauk Project, like it didn't end quietly. He said that something did go wrong. Like he started remembering his memories and he was like, yeah, I did work there. Yeah, we did conduct these experiments and psychological, like warfare stuff. And we were trying to remote view, like pretty much everything that you see in Stranger Things is like what he was claiming what happened. And I would not be shocked or surprised. I'm sure that the Duffer Brothers most likely read his books too, because
for sure,
definitely,
especially if they were initially going to name it Montauk Project,
and it's based off of exactly. But Preston, he ends up claiming that the reason why it didn't end quietly was because something went wrong. That researchers created something using human thought and subconscious energy. So one of them ended up creating like a physical entity through their mind.
Oh.
Using their mind. Yeah. So it's like they kind of essentially Venica.
No, whatever his name is.
Vecna.
Oh,
I was
you
just
don't mess
with
with
me. Yeah. So, and it was referred to as a monster. So Preston ends up saying that this is why the project allegedly shut down so abruptly, why everything was so as crazy as it was.
Dude, did they not know all they needed to do was play one cassette tape and they would be fine?
Make a deal with God. Yes, so good.
Damn, that was some good singing there.
Thanks, babe. I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, so this is why he said it allegedly shut down. And so they also have, I don't know if this is for real or not, but like when you look at the videos, sometimes certain things look like scraped out, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Interesting.
Some of the videos that you see, it's like, and you also can't go underground anymore. Not that you could at the time when it was live.
I'm sure there's got to have been somebody out there that has made it into underground.
So I started looking into that, right? And
I've tried to find YouTube videos. I had it. Did you find something?
No. Well, what I will tell you is one of the YouTube videos I saw, some guy said that every underground tunnel that he could possibly find, they really did cement and flood because he actually was sending like water drones through the tunnels.
Yo, that's actually smart as hell.
Yeah, no, when I read that, when I saw that, I was like, dude, you pay your rent, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You get rent paid. Mortgage is paid with you.
Remind me when we finish. I got to show you a video of these guys that found a old coal mining tunnel that actually leads to Area 51.
Okay. All right. Hold on. One thing at a time, please. One thing at a time. So, yeah, he ends up dropping the water drones, and he says that it gets to a point where you're just in cement again.
Damn.
So they really did cement everything down, or so they say. I don't know. What if maybe there's an entrance in the water?
Yeah, like you have to from outside, like James Bond style.
James Bond is exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
Love it.
Yep, it's exactly what I was thinking. Now, the Montauk Project lore expands further, okay? Because Preston claims that the experiments didn't stop at psychology. He actually suggested that they eventually evolved into manipulation of time, altered states of reality, and consciousness interacting with technology. So according to him, he believed that human thought could actually influence machines, and that these machines could maybe amplify thought, and maybe putting them under certain conditions, reality itself could bend.
Okay.
Yes, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. I didn't go too deep into the time travel stuff because physics is not my number one suit, but I'm not sure if there's like scientific evidence supporting any of this. I'm just letting you know the story and what I found, okay? But this is where Montauk absorbs the Philadelphia experiment and it becomes
a bigger
connective lore. Yes.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. So when Stranger Things premiered, people who knew the Montauk lore noticed like a lot of the similarities. They weren't subtle. I mean, 11 from Stranger Things, the girl, she's a child taken into a secret program. She's isolated, she's tested, psychologically pushed. Her abilities are tied to consciousness and perception. Same with the Montauk Boys.
Yeah.
So they say. That's what they say the lore is, right? And obviously, I know you're probably thinking, well, duh, Stranger Things was made based off of the lore. But I'm just saying, seeing it, and then also and then also knowing the history of the U.S. history of the experiments that they have conducted that we do know of. It kind of like the Stranger Things kind of gives the viewer a more visual representation of what it is. Yeah,
which is kind of crazy, honestly. That's so cool and also
scary.
Again, even if all of this is fake and it comes out years later that truthfully they were actually conducting experiments on new radio technology or some shit like that.
I'll be the first one.
Whatever.
I'll be the first one to say.
At the same time, the way that all of this is coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the government doesn't tell us stuff, because they see us coming up with conspiracies and they're like, damn, this is going to make some good TV shows. We should keep our mouths shut and not ruin the hype and let them know that no, none of that unfortunately ever happened. They'd be cool, but no, it never happened.
You're like, actually, no. So, of course, Montauk Project is unproven. Stranger Things is fiction, but from all we know, it's kind of hard. Like, honestly, the line between fact and fiction starts blurring, to be honest, because you're just like, I don't know. And with a lot of the things that we hear even now till this day, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I would have never thought about that. But so after decades of stories and speculation and the show and everything, Camp Hero today is part of the Montauk Point State Park. So the land is actually managed by the New York State Parks. Most structures are abandoned. Like, you can actually go now. If you guys ever find yourself in Montauk, you can go. You just can't. You can't pass. There's still gates and stuff, but you can go up to where they covered like certain tunnels. I've seen some people in videos like they jump the gate. I do not recommend that.
I was gonna say,
I don't recommend that.
Did you see the video? Because there's a group of guys that they do the exploring, and they actually slept at the tower.
Oh, I did not see that.
Oh, that one was cool. They went crazy. Up. They slept on the tower. These are the same guys though that also found a tour guide willing to take them to the ground zero for Chernobyl.
Oh wait, I know the guys, but I've never seen the video. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Well, yeah, so you guys can go, and from what I was reading, it's like a beautiful state park now. Like, you can literally go. It's right by the water.
Long Island in general is gorgeous.
Yeah. No, I agree. So the radar tower still stands, so you can see it. And from what I was reading, it is difficult and expensive and even dangerous to dismantle. So I don't think that that's something that they're even interested in doing. But also, who's to say they don't want to pick up again where they left off? There.
I'm just saying, I think that we don't need radars nearly that big anymore.
Fact.
Because even think about your news stations. News stations used to have massive, massive satellite dishes. They still have stuff like that, but the dishes are nowhere near the size they used to be, or complexity.
Yeah, and you know what? So I watched this segment by CW's network. It's called Mysteries Decoded. Have you ever heard of it?
I feel like I have.
You might have, definitely, for sure. But there is an investigator, and they reported finding what appeared to be a new electrical meter attached to the radar tower. And this is as of like last year. And so that raised immediate questions, even in the video. They were like, well, if this is a decommissioned tower radar, why is it that there's a new electrical meter installed? Because then that would mean that power needs to run here just in case if it needs to be on.
Well, I was going to say, are there any lights, anything at all around it?
No, there's nothing that's the other thing too. Like, why would it need power if this tower allegedly hasn't been operational for years?
Because that's the only thing that I can think of is another building or lighting or anything.
No, there's nothing. Because it's now you're in the state park.
That's kind of weird.
That's it, right? Isn't that strange? It's strange, right? Stranger things have happened. So, so during that video, though, the meter ends up appearing to be a lot newer. Like, you could tell, like, they get close to it and they one of them like videotape it or whatnot. But it was suggested that maybe since the radar tower is there, maybe there has to be some type of ongoing maintenance that we don't know about. But the other problem was that they ended up speaking to a park maintenance worker in this video who identified himself as Joe. And he did state that the park staff are not even authorized to enter the radar tower, and that he describes the structure as very unsafe and it's deteriorating. So he even expresses being surprised at the idea that there is new electrical equipment, because he's like, I didn't know anything about that, and we're not even allowed in there. So in reality, who would come out and put a new meter? Yeah. Not them.
Also, and how are they doing it without anyone even seeing them?
Well, I would think that it's sent by the person, like whoever's in charge of
No,
Camp
I
Hero.
know, but the fact that nobody from the park seems to know. Well, at least Joe didn't.
Joe did it. Yeah. No, that's true. Very true. Maybe at nighttime, but then also interesting. Yeah. Why are you there at night? Why are you not there in the day?
Imagine SEAL Team 6, go in. We need you to install this
this
thing.
New power meter, electric meter.
They're like, all right, what guns do we take? Nothing. You don't need guns. We just need somebody to be secretive.
But from what I could find, like, the radar tower isn't active. There's no like official confirmation saying that. So it was just interesting. Like, even watching the video, they were all like, that is weird. That is strange.
That's very odd.
Yeah. But again, maybe it just needs like minimal power for something. We don't know. I don't know. Think something's going on.
No, it sounds sketchy. Sounds suspicious.
Yeah, without official records, we don't know. But definitely check out. I'll post photos. But if you guys want to go on a deep dive on those videos, oh my God, they're intense. Some other people online have gone a step further and connected the Montauk children lore to other modern legends like the Black-Eyed Kids. Have you ever heard of those?
No, I thought you were gonna say Black-Eyed Peas.
No.
I was like,
I do it on the daily, my humps.
I was thinking I got a feeling.
No, I won't tell you too much about the Black-Eyed Kids because we are going to do another an episode on them. Yes. But just remember Black-Eyed Kids when we talk. When I do that, remember Montauk Project.
It's making me think of like Serpent Kids, like the when in Harry Potter, when some of their eyes go completely black because they're getting possessed.
No, that's what it is. Kids. It looks like that, yeah.
Yo, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
I gotta wait for this.
Yes. The Black-Eyed Kids. I'll let you. Do you want me to do that next?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because I can.
Yeah. Audience is gonna want this too.
The Black-Eyed Kids? Okay, sounds good. I guess now you guys know what next episode's gonna be is the Black-Eyed Kids. Yeah. It's okay. It's very interesting. But either way, that is the Montauk Project. I hope
Wow.
I did it justice. I know I gave a lot of information about so much of the history, and I hope you guys were able to follow along because I did my best to try to organize it in the way that I'm like, okay, maybe I mentioned this first, so then we could talk about this, and then it leads me to this.
No, this was phenomenal. And if you didn't know anything about the Montauk Project, I feel like you just learned so much.
Yeah.
And if you did know, I feel like now, unless you knew everything she knew, then I feel like you at least came into this learning so much more because
it's just a fascinating
I thought I knew a lot about
conspiracy.
This. And this has happened so many times where I think that I knew something and I can't wait for you to cover a case like John Dillinger or some of those other cases because I know so much about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But then you always uncover shit that I never knew.
Thanks.
And yeah.
Thanks, babe.
Thanks.
I
thought the case was phenomenal. I am very...
You're going to look at the Montauk Project differently now?
Yes, but it also makes me want to dig back into it again and find videos and find photos and everything.
I encourage, like if this at all gave you like a, oh my God, I need to know more, go on the dive because there's just so much out there. It's also interesting speaking with people that know about it and hearing their conspiracies or what their thoughts are on it because it's just kind of crazy because when you really look at the United States history when it comes to these type of projects and stuff, when you start thinking about Stranger Things, it doesn't really feel that far-fetched. Like,
I mean, it's very possible. Page 47 in the Book of Secrets.
Oh my God, I just watched Book of Secrets for the first time.
National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Oh yeah. National Treasure. The first time I've ever seen the movies, no joke, like last week. What the fuck is in page 47? They got me messed up with that. Imagine it is the Montauk Project. Stop.
That'd be crazy.
I'd be like, ooh, cut it out. Oh my God, no, that's so funny. But that does leave me one question that I do have to ask you before we leave and everybody else. Do you believe in time travel?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Matt, what is his name? Matt Groening? Groening. What about the writer and creator of The Simpsons?
Oh, yeah. Did you mention him?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned him in the first part of this.
I think you did. Yeah.
He kind of gave up the fact without ever admitting it. He 1000% has to have some type of access to time travel. I don't know how.
Yeah.
But how is it that man has guessed the exact appearance, look, time, everything for so many big events?
Yeah.
It's a little suspicious.
Sus, for sure. I think it's like, I would probably say, I'd have to say yes. Oh my God, you know what it is? It's just that like I'm either, it's hard for me to be like yes or no, but I'm also so big on like, I don't even know how, my knowledge is probably like an inkling of what we can even comprehend, you know? I mean, and that goes with anybody though.
Well, I was going to say,
there's so much we can't even comprehend. Imagine telling someone 500 years ago the shit that we're doing right now. They would not believe that at all. They wouldn't believe it.
I guess that's where I also get into the next portion of it too, of the whole, for example, you have Star Wars and all these other intergalactic movies where you can travel at light speed. That is impossible as far as we know, because in order to do that, it would basically decimate your whole entire body. You'd be gone. Nothing would be left.
Right.
But sometimes I wonder how long it's going to take to figure out a way to be able to travel at light speed.
Right.
Because then we could legitimately explore a lot more of our universe.
I know. And
that's the thing. It's very possible there's other planets out there that have
a hundo.
Maybe people not looking like us fully, but have living and breathing organisms and everything like that.
We're on a floating rock.
You know?
Yeah, it can't just be us.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You tell me there's another planet out there that doesn't have cockroaches, ants, mosquitoes.
That ass.
Count me in. I'll get on that spaceship as long as I can bring my pups. We're going.
Facts, dude. Facts. I also think about you saying like interdimensional or all that, and it's like how, what is it that it's like, you know, there may be another dimension where everything's the same, but maybe just off a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something's a little bit off. And I always think of that. And you know what's so funny? Every time I think about that, I'm always like, damn, I wonder if my dad would still be there. Like,
damn.
I know. I'm like, yo, I wonder if he'd be like,
yep.
That's all, folks. Yeah, no. But when it comes to time travel, I feel like anything is possible. Anything is possible in this universe. I think there's just so much going on. It would be hard for me to fathom, to grasp the understanding. But like I said, imagine telling someone 500 years ago, oh, we're going to be on laptops. Oh, we're going to have a microphone. Oh, we're going to like fucking do all this shit. They would not believe it because it'd be hard to comprehend something that you've not yet seen or experienced. It's crazy. One of the things that I found when I was reading about time traveling that I think you're going to find funny, Stephen Hawking, he actually ends up, what?
Stephen Hawking.
Oh, Stephen Hawking.
Wait. No.
Stephen?
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking actually hosted his own time travelers party.
I feel like I knew or heard about this.
Okay, so as we know, Stephen Hawking is a very respected, physicist in the world. Now, he believed that time travel might be possible, but not in the way that most people imagine. According to him, traveling into the future is theoretically possible. In fact, it already happens in very small ways. Times move differently depending on speed and gravity, which means astronauts age slightly slower than people on Earth. So
actually, that theory is also part of Interstellar, because it is true. And that we have so much science behind that.
Yes, and that is real physics. Like, that's a real physical fact. Yeah,
which is kind of crazy if you think about.
No, I know. The fact that it's like, my brain right now is like, I can't. Okay, so, but he says traveling backward in time, changing the past, was something that he believed was extremely unlikely. And he argued that it was because it would create paradoxes and break the known laws of the universe. So to test this idea, he decided to do something different. In 2009, he hosts a party for time travelers. Mm-hmm. So the twist was he didn't send out the invitations until after the party had already happened. The invitations included the date, the time, and the location. Everything a time traveler from the future would need, but nobody showed up. So that's how he concluded that his theory that it wouldn't happen.
Yes, I do remember now about this.
Did you hear that? Okay. I did not know about that, and that was interesting. And he even later explained that if time travelers from the future exist and can travel backward in time, they would be able to see the invitation after it was published and then travel back to attend the party.
To attend it.
And since no one did, that's when he believed that it supported the idea that the universe is going to protect itself from being altered. Because what's done is done. Yeah. So you could travel in the future, but you can't. And it's kind of
that butterfly effect, too. They do state that if time travel were to be real, and now we're getting ready to go down a whole nother rabbit hole that we're going to cut off, but they state that if you were able to travel back in time, even accidentally squishing a
butterfly, because I always hear the butterfly, but even just doing a bug,
could drastically alter everything in the future.
If you guys haven't seen the show, it's on Netflix. It's based off of a Stephen King novel.
Stephen
King novel. It's 11. What is it? It's the date that JFK was assassinated. Hold on. 11/22/63. Oh my goodness, guys. I will tell you, you need to go watch that. The story is really great. I can imagine the book has to be better. Like, I can't even imagine the book. But the story is so good, and it pretty much takes place on this one guy who just so happens to be James Franco, and he goes back in time to like 2 years before the JFK assassination, and he pretty much tries to stop it from happening. It's just a very fascinating topic, theory, and to see it all come to life and the story and everything. But in there, he time travels back, and, you know, that's the rule. Yeah. If you change something in the past, the future's going to be different when you come back. So knowing that he even did that too, I was just like, dude, what? It's just so much that I was learning. But this also matters because when we talk about stories like the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project, those legends also involve traveling backward in time. So it's like, who knows? Now, again, Stephen's experiment doesn't really prove that the stories are false, but it does just show how far they can stretch beyond the modern physics.
That's true, yeah.
You know, so, but once again, we are left with that unfamiliar feeling of, is that real, fact, or fiction? I don't know. That is the Montauk Project in a nutshell. Yes.
I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, because that was amazing.
Oh, thanks, babe. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did
Spooky.
good. I did a lot of research. Yeah.
You killed it.
You rock, Bugs.
Thanks.
Now
shall we call it out?
We shall call it out, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us today on Macabre Mondays. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know more about today's episode or caught a detail I might have missed, let me know. Let us know.
Let her know. But also, we'd love to hear from you. Seriously, if you have a story that's strange, sinister, or downright spooky, doesn't matter how small you may think it is. Even if it's a legend like this.
Yes.
Send it our way. You can email us at macabremondayspodcast@gmail.com or head over to macabremondays.com and submit your story. Yours just might be featured in an upcoming listener episode.
Follow us on social media by searching Macabre Mondays for photos of today's episode, updates, and a little extra spooky fun as usual. We'll see you next Monday for another sinister, strange, and spooky episode. Stay tuned. More mystery is just around the corner. But until then, stay curious and stay safe, friends. Bye.
Deuces.